So I figured what we can do first, because I know, Justin, you said you have to leave at 1:30?
I gotta be there by
1:30, so 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Okay. So we'll keep an eye on it. But I figured we would go through, we sat down, we heard from all the department heads. I figured we would go through the receipt budget.
Look at this one.
It's this one here.
All right.
And you'll see the budgeted receipts for FY 21-22 and the actuals, and then the yellow column budgeted receipts for FY 22-23. Let's go down each line and agree or disagree, but up or down on what we think the receipts are going to be. So if you want to.
Okay, our first one there is our real property tax. I know that, I think Tony had sent out an email, to you all, maybe, saying that he doesn't think, in the end, will be about where we normally are at. I have no clue what that will change the compensating rate to. Hopefully, it won't change what the compensating rate is very much, but, so you all have that information. And so when you're looking at this, of course, the left, all the way up to the left column, all the way up to the, right in front of the pink column, you have actuals. The last one is the budgeted for the current year we're in. Pink is where we're at as of, I'm sorry, it says 4:30, but actually I didn't have time to update them until 4:30. They're updated to 3:31. I do have an updated number for 4:30 on occupational tax when we get to that point. But
This is updated to
3:31.
3:31.
And then the last column, like Judge said, is kind of a starting off point for 23. So I think as we go through this, there'll be a lot that I think are just kind of no-brainers. There's not a lot of room to change, but then there'll be a few that maybe you want to discuss. This might be one of them. Clearly, it's usually around, 1.6, 1.7. We have it set at 1.6. It's been kind of consistently 1.7 or over the last few years. So I would say this is one that I would say is one that you maybe want to spend time discussing. There's going to be many of them that, like I said, I think they're not really points to discuss, but I think this is one.
The goal is to go through the receipts and all of us eventually find a number that we agree that this is what we expect the receipts to be. Or not expect them to be, but what we want the receipts to reflect budgeted.
I mean, I agree with you. I think this is one that is consistent or has been consistent, and I think based on where this comes from too. I'm not saying it needs to be 1.8, but I do think we need to consider it to be 1.7. To me, is still conservatively anywhere from 75 to 100,000, 50 to 100 below what it's consistently been and what I think it would consistently continue to be, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yes?
last year and see the difference in,
Oh, okay, yeah.
the difference in the March 31 date and then the end of the fiscal year as far as that number fluctuating.
Oh, how it did last year?
Yeah.
Let me look real quick. Let me pull up where we were at this time last year.
I can't imagine it would be a substantial amount of money, of real property tax coming in after 3/31.
This
but-
time last year, we were we'd already received everything by this time
Okay.
last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I would assume too.
What'd you say, 100?
Yeah, I'd say 1.7.
I would be comfortable with that myself.
Okay, so as we find some that we agree on changing, I'm gonna go ahead and update it on the sheet you'll see up here. And then, I'll run and print it for you when we're done today, so you'll have it to take with you as you're, as we continue to look at the budget and stuff. So I'll get you an updated one, so you don't have to sit and, unless you're wanting to make little notes to yourself, you don't have to sit and change everything on your sheet. I'll print new ones.
That'd be great, Erica.
Okay.
So is 1.7 what everyone agrees to for that line?
Yes.
Okay. Next is the tangible tax. Budgeted for FY 22-23 at 200,000. Actuals of March, 186,679. And we budgeted 200,000 the current fiscal year.
That's same kind of question. I mean, it's all that stuff is coming in at the same time, right?
I shouldn't have closed out of where we were at last year. So at this time last year, we had already received everything. So we're probably at where we're gonna be at. So I would maybe say we need to adjust down some there. Unless there's just high optimism that it will go back to over 200.
Well, I mean, I can see that happening based on the taxes with it, but still, if, I'm also comfortable with if you're, I mean, you've got 1, 2, 3 of the last 5 years were over 200, and the other 2 years were, 197. So, I mean,
So is there a suggestion in there, Monty, of what you want?
I don't know that it's necessary to take it down, but if you take it down, I wouldn't do it any more than $10,000,
Does anybody disagree
No.
with that?
because you've got, I mean,
So taking it down 10,000, is that what everybody agrees?
190.
Yep.
So 190?
Okay, so on the motor vehicle, this time last year, we were at 309, and we came out total for the year 381. That does seem to be kind of a higher year than the previous years. Is there any change wanted on that one? Okay, well, I'll move along then. If I go too fast past one, y'all just stop me.
So 275, is that where we're going to keep it?
Yep.
Okay.
Next one's fine.
Next one, on the delinquent, leaving it at 17.5. Is that agreeable? Anyone disagree with that? The line after that, it says the garbage tax, that's the host agreement, and that's not, it's in the road fund now. That's why it says 0 there. It lives in the road fund.
So we went back to delinquent tax, we left it at 17.5?
Yep.
Okay.
State collected omitted. We were around where we are right now at this time last year. That seems to be higher, but I believe that that's more just a function of when when we collect, so.
Keep it the same?
Yep.
Okay.
Bank share seems fairly consistent from year to year.
Keep it.
Keep it the same. Anyone disagree with that? Franchise, this time last year, we were at 78,000. We came out at 105. That kind of seems variable too. We have a couple of years mixed in lower.
We on franchise? We budgeted 40,000 for this year.
Other than 1 year in there, which was 45,000, we've consistently hit 50 at least. If not, some of those, 90 and something like that. But I think it's a place if we have to go back to, we go back to, maybe. I don't, you know what I mean?
I would say I don't know that we were, since we only have two and a half, I call it half because on the day that we want to do the first reading, we're going to do a small budget workshop in the beginning. I don't know how much time we'll have to come back to things, since we only have 2.5 budget workshops.
Okay.
I would say if you can, try to
You're
decide
looking
as
for a
many as you
suggestion, man,
can.
I would say do 50. And that, I think that's still conservative
Yeah.
based on what we've
So
taken.
Do 50.
raise it to 50, so increase it 10.
All right, deed. Fairly consistent there. I think that you all would have the pulse on that the
I
best.
mean, there's no doubt. I mean, deed transfer tax is $1 per thousand of the deed, and nothing is selling for less than it did. And,
I think we could safely make that number 1.25.
125?
What do you think?
maybe one, yeah, something like that. I can't see how it wouldn't be. I mean, I could sit here and pull up volume of what's gone through the local MLS, and I can guarantee you it's probably 20% higher than what it was the year before that, 20% higher than what it was the year before that, and 15% higher than what it was the year before that. So I think that 100,000 has been a lower figure for a while, and we've just kept it there. I mean, maybe 120, just to be safe or something. I know it's only $5,000. That's a 20% increase versus 25.
I'm good with that.
120.
120?
Going once, going twice, or are we doing auction here?
Okay, TVA and Lou, we were, this time last year. We were a little over where we were at this time last year.
Yeah.
We were at 698.
And the TVA and lieu, the 6 states, it's very interesting how the calculation is. Paradise Point, if you remember, when Muhlenberg County, when that shut down, that was a TVA asset in our region, but it's the state. So the state technically lost the monies based off of TVA's formula, but the other states absorbed those monies. So it's really, it's not that the 6 states lose the monies, they're just reallocated. There was an Alabama asset that was lost to the state of Alabama that was absorbed by the other states. So therefore, that kind of gave us I think there's 39 counties in the TVA region, kind of gave us a cushion for the loss of Paradise Island. So that is consistent because you're not losing the monies. The 6 states are going to just reallocate based off those assets. TVA has to give those monies to the 6 states. I'm not even going to go into the formula that they use. I sat through it once, I got it, but that's the best I can tell you today. That is a unique tax for us because of TVA in our backyard. But for budget purposes, that actual, as March 6/17.
This time last year was 698, so we are below what we were.
So it was 698 this time last year, and there was another 70,000 that came in. Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. So even if you assumed that happened again, it would still be under the 7. So it'd be more like, I mean, conservatively, 650 to 675.
I would say 650,
650.
smaller spread.
Yeah.
If everyone
All right.
is fine with 650?
Yep.
Okay, the Fish and Wildlife in lieu, it doesn't come till the last minute. And so we have not gotten that yet for this year. I will say it ended up being lower last year than we budgeted. It ended up being at 19.8. And while that's not a huge chunk of change, I would say maybe going back down to 19
20.
would be a better choice.
19.
The electric plant, that's pretty consistent. I don't know if you see any change you want to make there. Any disagreement with that?
We're not going to, 15, I think, is,
The next line is the RDEP funding. It was in this current budget. I think at the time we did the budget, we were thinking there was going to be a rule change and the money had to come through us and go back out, but that didn't happen, so I took that back out. Excess fees. Telecom, on the excess fees, just to go back to that really quick, I know that there's been a new, I believe it's a House bill, but I'm not really sure, passage, that the clerk will collect money for storage and long-term storage and data retention. He will begin remitting that to us monthly. It has to go in its own separate account and has to be kept separately for the clerk to use for that purpose at his discretion. And there's kind of actually some talk among the treasurers about the way this is written, as if the clerk can do it without the fiscal court's approval. However, treasurers can't write checks without the fiscal court's approval. So we'll iron out that detail as it comes, and he's ready to spend the money. Hopefully, we'll have some more guidance on that. But, so, right now, you won't, in this printout, see a separate account for that funds, but there will be a separate account. And I've asked him what he thinks that will be that he remits to us to go in that special account, and he thinks it will be around $85,000. So that will be an in and an out into his special fund, and the expense side will be long-term record-keeping expenses, clerk's office.
And if you are interested in that bill, it's 22 RS Senate Bill 135. Telecom tax. That's roughly a 30,000. A little over 30,000, about 37,000.
This time last year, we had $67,000 in that line.
We've got four.
40.
Did it 80? What was that? What's the, I can't refresh my memory here.
We're on telecom.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
saying refresh my memory on that tax.
I don't know that I see a remittance for that gives me details on how that's calculated. I think that I just get that straight. Let me see what I can find here really quick.
I mean, I guess the only reason I ask that is just the substantial difference in, it's not like it was, you know, steadily like going down and then boom. It was steady, and then this year, is there a
Sharp decline.
yeah, is there some reasoning that it happened this year that won't happen next year, I guess is my thought process.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's 77, 77, 79, 97, 80, and then 40.
I agree. I don't know if it's an environmental decline, kind of, you know, what we see in the landlines, which is an environmental decline, people just getting rid of them. I don't know. But there's a significant spread to where, and what I mean by significant, compared to the last one we just talked about, that had a decrease, but it wasn't a significant decrease. So, 40,821, so roughly 41,000 from 78,000.
These direct deposits come from the state, and so I don't get a remittance with them. But I could contact and ask if they can kind of give us
An
figures
idea.
that these are based on, and that
Yeah.
way we can kind of see what's the trend is and what's going on.
Yeah.
Do we want to keep it at 78 until further information, or do we want to just
I think
drop
so.
it?
I think so, because that just seems like a, you know, an outlier to me of, okay, is that a one-timer? Or is it so I mean, it's something that we can easily change.
Okay.
Until further guidance. How about that?
You're gonna.
The $10,000 under the ambulance grant, that's a KCTC, I think, grant, KCTCS grant, and that's consistent with when we do ambulances. The KEDFA PDI EDF grant line is the grant for the Pad Ready site. That is, obviously, it is what it is. It won't change. State election reimbursement, that may change based on election costs. It's kind of variable from year to year, so I don't know that that would be one to change. But if it were, I would think that it would coincide with the expenses on the election side anyway, if we needed to amend that in for extra expenses on the election side. The Board of Assessment's pretty consistent. There's not any disagreement to that. Animal adoptions might be one where you want to change, although it's not going to be significant money, but
Animal adoption, we have at 10,000. Do we want to keep that at the same?
I would say so.
Court rental?
court rental, this is what we get from the ALC. And since we've paid off the ALC this year, the amount that they give us starts to include an additional amount. They call it, I gave myself a note here. They call it a use allowance in the AOC reimbursement for capital costs, capital renovations for the judicial building per KRS 26A.090 and 2022 House Bill 244.
Yeah, so we printed off the statute. Basically, that allowance, the language is for reconstruction, repair, new facility. So when you look at that language, the intent for these dollars is for the communities to start preparing for, because of how old is our judicial center? It's over 20 years. So start using that monies to invest, in my opinion, to grow that money. So if we have to repair or rebuild, new construction, long-term, we've got those monies for that. So one of the things that, with the county ordinance that I was going to do was direct the treasurer, those are in quarterly payments of the 147, direct her to invest those dollars so that, 10 years from now, we have somewhat of some monies set aside for whatever the future holds for that particular facility. I'd hate to see those dollars absorbed into a budget, and then we end up 10 years from now needing monies for an issue with that particular building. So what I had her do was take out the 147 budgetary reflection is going to show what we typically get from AOC. And that one is based off our square footage. If it, excuse me, if it changes, you see the historical changes there. Now the 379, it did go up this particular time.
And
That's
that's
the
because
figure they've
that's
given
because
us
that amount that I just
with
read
that.
you off is included in the receipt
Yes.
side.
Yeah.
So on the
We'll
expense
see on the
side,
expense side later what you're
that part
talking
needs
about.
to be put into a
I
capital
got you.
investment, that portion.
Okay.
Okay, so the Office of Emergency Management, that is reimbursement that we get for salaries. You'll see that there was a delay from the state turning over that money, and that's why it looks like there's so much this year, but it's really not that it's going up. It's that we got what was delayed, delayed to be released from last year.
Leave it the same.
The building inspection admin fees, there is a number there right now. I would say that this is one that we do need to come back to. You'll see that was something that we didn't do until this current fiscal year that we are in, and that's, we did that when we took Casey's coding of his expenses, out of building inspection entirely, the coding, and so that was recouping what we could left over of their budget to cover some of him. So we'll want to come back to this when we decide what the building inspection budget is going to look like and what we could recoup from any county employee that's working in that office. So I'd say we'll put a cap on that one and come back to it. The court cost supplement is rather consistent, and it is a little over that usually. What we have set at 3,500. Is there a change wanted there?
$3,500 for the court supplement. We keeping that same?
The GIS fees, those are a function of who Andy partners with. I believe that he still has about 4 partnerships, but I will verify with him. They're $6,000 apiece.
I think that's what he said
Yeah.
the other day.
The other day in the budget workshop.
Yeah, but it looks like it's gone down. The number he represented was 40,000, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah.
that was 16, 17, 16. So has gone down. We can have a further discussion as far as that total operational commitment. I've yet to get a contract or see contracts, but I think we need to list those out. So for the budget, for the receipts right now, we'll keep it the same. The next one, House Bill 556. This is
At the jail?
that's the jail.
Yeah.
This first year, since it wasn't budgeted in, obviously they wrote the check to the fiscal court. And instead of putting it back into the jail budget, we put it back into I forget which account,
General fund.
in the general fund. Moving forward, and we'll get into, there's a lot more discussions that we're going to have on this, but moving forward, that 120, I think we should think about putting back, not putting it in his budget, but putting it back on the receipt side in our budget. But it was 120 this year. You've got 100.
We're at 100 this year. 120 is what the projection is.
With it being new, I wonder if 100 would be fair. Because there's no historical data for this. And when you look at the number of days, there's only so many inmates. I don't know how they're calculating this since it's fairly new, but there's only so many number of inmates that can take these classes that are available for them. If they take all the classes and they're still lodged in the jail, the goal is to get them in and get them out, but that's not quite the success of what we see in the numbers as far as people being lodged in the jail. I guess what I'm saying, there's only so many training classes you can get per inmate before they've tapped out those resources. So,
So for now,
100,000?
leave it here and put it at 100? Is that what you're?
Yep. Flip over.
Yeah, the last one on that page, the payroll reimbursements, it's just a function of county attorney sanitation reimbursements. So it's not really one to change much.
And the loan for the Arts Commission's paid off or about to be paid off? So
It is
that's-
paid off.
It's
It was paid off.
So,
And that's important, I know you guys know, that's a debt liability that we had to show on our budget, so that's, there was never any concern that they weren't going to pay it off. It was just,
Right.
we had to reflect it, and the auditors were asking us questions. So that's all gone, we're good on that end. Mission successful. Miscellaneous,
Miscellaneous is, kind of whatever falls into our lap that we don't have a section to fit into. It usually always gets amended in. 1,000 is usually just kind of what we keep it at. The next line is the sanitation department wanted to pay 10,000 towards the principal of our KIA loan. And I believe that they're going to have to run that through us instead of going straight through KIA. There's a little bit of a disconnect there. So we'll take it in and we'll make the principal payment.
yeah, and we're going to add that on top of, the intent is to add that on top of what we pay. For whatever reason, they could not pay directly to KIA. So this is the best solution to get that added in.
The next line, the Southwest Wind debt service funding, that's what we get from the city of Benton towards our debt for Southwest One. Interest on the checking, that's kind of variable from year to year. I don't know if you want to mess with that there, but again, that's unpredictable. I don't know that I would go crazy in that line or anything. And that's the end of receipts for the general fund. And then I'll get into, I'll give you a brief overview of the cash balance that I have here estimated. And this is how I did it for every single fund. I took receipts beyond what we have budgeted, and then I assumed that every department would spend the remainder of what they have to spend in their budgets this current year, except for where they've told us otherwise. So remember, Brian came in and told us this ambulance wouldn't be done. Brittany had a couple of docks and what are the things called, ramps, that wouldn't be done. So we have a couple of things we knew would not be spent, but for the assumption of the carryover balance, I assumed every other department and every other line would be spent by the end of the fiscal year, what they have in their budget.
I think Andy also mentioned that some items that he had budgeted for just getting, and I think we're all aware of that. I was talking to a gentleman that he's a vendor, and they're 2 years behind, and they're having problems, obviously delivering on their current contracts. So these are way outside our control, but yeah, I think you also got that rolling over as well from IT. GIS.
So of course, the hope is always that the carryover balance will be higher than that, and potentially it will. I'm sure every single line and every single budget will not get spent before the June 30th, but since they have that opportunity, unless you all change put in a spending pause or whatever, I can assume that they will spend what they have in their budget. So that's how I came up with those numbers. Is there any question on how I came up with carryover for any of the funds? I did it consistently for every fund.
not on the
Same way.
expense, but on the receipt side also.
Right, on the carryover
Which is
receipt
what?
side. So you'll see it in every single fund. So for the general fund, it's 1,658,000 is what my estimate is right now. And that does not include what I labeled below there as investments. That's 1,980,000. And that number is, it is the $1 million of Port Authority money. plus the 711,000 of the school reimbursement money, minus the one bill we've paid so far on, I believe it was $26,000, and now I've suddenly forgotten what it was, but it was something that you all had just chose to pay out of that line. In the current budget, we had put to spend 168,000 of that money that was not related to the bonds, but was investment money towards the Pad Ready site, the county's portion of the Pad Ready site. So we've had one bill come through on that so far, the 26,000.
Yeah. I guess what my question was, on the expense side, we're assuming that we're going to spend all that money on the receipt side also within this cash balance, carryover balance. Are we assuming that we are going to hit all of our receipt sides within that? Does that make sense?
Right. So in the carryover balance, I assume we're hitting all of our receipts.
Okay.
And I assume everybody's
spending
spending
all
what
of
they are allowed to spend
Okay.
in their budgets.
All right.
Right, so those are the two assumptions.
Okay.
So just to finish up that thought of what I have segregated out here as investments, it is the Port Authority money, it is the school money minus the 26,000 we paid so far on the Pad Ready site investment, and it is 295,000 of investments that we made with the very last budget amendment, and that consisted of, I believe it was excess fees, the House bill money, and a couple of other little things. Of course, you'll see the transfers in, transfers out, where we normally would put what we are subsidizing each fund. They're zero right now. That's something you'll decide as, you decide the expenses. So that's the end of the general fund.
Okay.
All right, the road fund. The very first one is garbage tax. Again, that is the
Host agreement.
host agreement.
We're going to change that later so that everybody understands what that is. Host agreement.
Oh, you mean change the wording?
Yeah, from garbage to, I think we just threw that in there because it is garbage.
So, let me ask you, I'm assuming we're going up some, but keeping it somewhat conservative because it's the first year of that host agreement increase?
Well, not the,
Or first full?
2-3 years. It's still too new to tell what a consistent number we're going to get.
Yeah.
So going up in increments, yes, it's being conservative.
Okay. All right. I can see that.
Is there any disagreement with that before I move on?
Keep it same at 80,000. Okay.
State paid paving, that's a number that's given to us, as well as the truck license distribution. Driver's license refunds, it's fairly consistent, unless there's any disagreement there. County road aid is given to us. Coal severance, I don't know that we need to continue to put $67 there. We can if you want to.
Is that the same? Is that, I don't remember what that county road aid number is, but did it really come out to the exact same?
Per DLG, they told us to use the budget, the last year's budget.
They did?
Now,
Okay.
that was at my
All right.
budget workshop. If we have gotten paperwork since then with the final numbers, it could be sitting in my email. I'll double check.
Okay.
But
I
at the
mean,
budget
The number
workshop-
is what it is. It just, I couldn't remember if
Mm-hmm.
why that would be the same. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll double check on that one, and see
Okay.
if we've gotten a final word after the budget workshop when DLG said to just budget the prior year. Let's see.
If we budgeted $67, it had to be because you had a document that said you're going to get
Yeah.
$67.
And it could be that $67 came in and it went into their miscellaneous line.
And we,
But I can
when we
look into
budgeted-
that $67.
and we did
if
a
you-
budget, yeah, I would say that needs to be zero.
Okay.
Thanks for the $67.
It's their participation.
I mean,
Okay. They do have money off signs every year. It's pretty inconsistent. We always just have said zero, and what comes covers the expenses that they had to make the sign in the first place, kind of just carry it over. And then the checking interest, is the last one there. And again, that's, just gonna be a shot in the dark, a thought of what's gonna be in the account to collect interest, so. I would think 7 is safe, but if there's a disagreement, we can change it. And then the carryover balance again is, like I said
Same
earlier,
thing.
same way, calculated it the same way. I'll get with Roy as we get closer to the end of the year and see what he's not gonna
right.
get a bill for before the end of the year. But if that's the case, it's always gonna be a wash anyway, because he'll get the bill at the beginning of the next year. Okay, the jail fund, state fees have been very consistent. So we have 40 there unless there's a reason to disagree with that one.
So keep that same, at 40,000.
Jail medical, again, that's kind of a fluctuating deal, although it seems to be consistently around 15 or above. So unless there's a disagreement there, to keep that at 15.
So keep that same.
Contracted to other counties, I have that set to 0.
Shouldn't go up with.
Just because we
Graves
don't really
County.
know, but, I mean, it's whatever you guys agree to.
Yeah, that, I think we will have further discussions on that may cause that to go up.
Okay.
And I think we as a court need to set that.
So this might be one we put a pin in and come back to as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
State prisoners, we're at 931 right now, on that. And I believe that is with the May payment, so we'll have one more. I'll double check really quick.
They've been consistently getting about 100.
90 to 100. We have not gotten the May payment yet, but we did get the April, and that put it at 1,048,000.
So leave it at $1 million.
Yeah, but I think we can have further discussions.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll just say come back.
Yes.
For your printout though,
To be
because what she's going to do is as we go through these receipts, she's going to print out the changes and then
Yeah.
we use the bathroom break or whatever, and then she'll come back up with a new document. So go ahead just for this, and put $1 million if everyone's agreeable to that. But note that we'll come back to that.
All right. Legal processing fees, 6,000.
I don't see changing any of the rest of them, really. They look,
No, anyone to disagree with that, seeing a change for any of the rest?
Keep it same,
they look pretty consistent to me.
okay?
Okay, and same on the cash carryover on that, was how I calculated that. Grant fund has nothing in it, because as of right now, we don't know for sure of any grants. On the 911 side, 911 fees have taken that down again, we're only at 25 right now. You know, that's a well that's just dried up, so.
I don't know, thinking about the federal lawsuit, I don't know if it's a good idea to try to project that we will have some type of decision on that in this next fiscal year. So it's one of those where if it is, obviously, we'll have to amend the budget, but 25,000 is, keep it the same, I think would be realistic. What was it, 29? In that, 25,965. So keep it the same.
Yep.
The wireless 911 fees, these dollars are really out of our control, so, is that actual, do you get another payment?
Yeah, let me see where we're at, what the April payment looked like. If
Because those numbers will change as certified PSAPs. We lost some across the state, but then we received new ones across the state. So as those certified PSAPs go up and down, that pro rata share in the CMRS numbers will change, because if you increase the PSAP number, then our pro rata goes down. If you decrease the PSAP number, our pro rata goes up. So that's why reducing the PSAPs is good for the certified PSAPs, because our funding will go up. That's a moving target.
it's direct deposit, so I'm logging on real quick and I'll tell you what it was this time. So our volume payment that we just got for the fourth quarter was 23,000. And then, the other payment,
And the way that the volume, the pro rata is consistent based off of how many PSAPs we are, but the volume is where, as other communities were to join, they bring their volume, which means they bring their money. These are restricted dollars, so that's, let's just say if the four of us were PSAPs, we each had 100,000 volume calls, and we all came together, then we would have 400,000 volume calls, which then our volume share would go up.
Doesn't look like we've gotten our pro rata yet, but it was, the last quarter, the pro rata was 28. So I would say you could probably assume that it'll be close to that. So that's another
50,
51
so right in that 212
area.
area. I think that's one of those that stay.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
you're really not going to make a huge impact.
right. One
And
way or
they're
the other.
restricted, so keep it the same, 212. All right.
Okay, I've predicted no carryover for them since they are looks like they're gonna come under on their landline fees. And then I also, have no interest, I took out interest for that account. I assume that they won't carry a very large balance, since their account isn't, it's not a large volume account. Okay, occupational tax, that we will skip and come back to it last. So I'm assuming that's the most conversation we'll have. On the animal shelter donation fund, you know, in the past, we have not budgeted for amount of donations since it's really gonna be unpredictable. Their carryover from that fund is consistently declining, and that's because over the past couple of budget cycles, we've had them rely on that account, so that we could allocate our subsidies to other projects or other funds. So I anticipate that changing greatly this year, and I would say that they're gonna need more supplementation from the general fund because they'll have so much less than the donation fund. But there's just some information for you there on that carryover. Again, I calculated it the same way. The sheriff's fee pooling, I believe that I have set that at what he provided, but I'm not for sure on that. Let me see if on his paper he had that predicted to go up.
Why am I thinking 2 million?
Let me look and see. Okay, I don't know that he provided that in what he gave for his individual.
Yeah, I actually just see,
However, I'm assuming he probably was in something that he presented to you while I was out. His yearly.
yeah, as far as all the presentations the other day, they weren't receipts. They
Right.
were just all,
Request,
so
So
keep
I
it
would
the
say maybe
same
to
for
stay
now
there
until we.
unless we
yeah.
have some other word.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'm predicting $100,000 carryover for that. I believe that was because of where we're at the time. As far as what he brings in monthly, I think he'll end up with a little over the current year, the 1.8 for the current year. Okay, so for ABC, those are currently set at this current year's budgeted amount. There's actuals there to date for you. That's one you may want to look at. I don't know, that's on the regulatory fees.
Where'd you come up with the 406? What'd you say?
On which one?
Yeah, where'd the 406 come from?
Oh, 406 on the transfer in on the sheriff's.
Yeah.
It's just a function of what's
The actual, or is that the,
left in the ABC. So if you look down to the next section, the ABC section,
yeah? Oh,
it's everything, it's if you
Okay.
take all the receipts and take out the 13.4 that's committed.
I gotcha.
On the expense side, it's everything that's left goes directly out and into the sheriff's fund to,
Okay.
cover, sheriff deputy payroll.
okay.
So that could change. So if you look at the ABC fund and the court wants to change what the regulatory fees budget set at, that would increase the amount that could go from that account into the sheriff's fund. Any disagreement with those?
Same.
Alrighty. That brings us to the building inspection. The budgeted receipts are set right now at what Casey provided us when he came to his budget meeting. And that's how those got in there. I don't know if you want a discussion on that right now. That may be something that we change as you guys discuss their expenses or how we're gonna run that office in the future. As of right now, it's set at what Casey presented you all.
That's another further discussion. TBD, yeah.
As far as the numbers, we'll keep them the
But-
same.
Yeah, I think so. And then double back after the expense discussion.
Okay, so do we want to go back to the occupational tax fund? And before we talk about the actual occupational tax, I will say you'll notice there, you know, I have an interest amount of 25. I don't know if you feel like that's reasonable, but that account usually carries a fair balance, and so I think that I see it as reasonable, but if we wanted to change it, we could. I can tell you what it is right now.
So OTA, I had her put it at 0 so that you see the historical numbers there, so that we can obviously come up with a number that we feel comfortable with as far as a receipt. We looked at it, I mean, you're talking, what, a 5-year, 4-year historical, anywhere from like 5.7 to 6.4 on the occupational tax. We budgeted 5.1 this year.
What's the current on it, Erica?
It
The-
is right here. Let me turn my page here. I had a deposit this week, and so we're at 6,390,000. 6 million. So let's just say 6.4
As of, and we're talking
week.
as of right now?
as of this week. Mhm.
Okay, so say as of 5/15. So, which would be, pretty much, should be all,
We should have all the quarterlies in.
and annual.
The majority of the net profits. I mean, there's
Yeah.
going to be people that trickle in, but I don't
But
see it. It's never a
not-
lot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So then you have another month or so of,
Which extension should be filed by now, and, you know,
Right.
a payment is required with the extension, an estimated payment, so, I mean, I don't see a ton more coming in between now and the next 5 weeks, I don't,
you talking about for everything, I mean,
For everything.
not just net, but the other.
yeah, for everything, I don't see much else coming in.
So you can see this number maybe being a 6.5 or something like that.
I don't even know that we will see 100 grand more.
Oh, you
I would say it'll stay around 6.4.
Okay.
Optimistically, maybe it will be 6.5, but
Yeah. Need to.
No, I'm good.
Good.
If I do, I'll call somebody else.
I've not done the Heimlich in a while, but
that is pretty high compared to last year. I think we still have a lot of people working from home.
yeah.
Is that going to change next year? I would think so. Maybe not. Who knows? We have people in our community in the last couple of quarters working that maybe weren't always in the community if they were here for debris cleanup and stuff like that. So, we may see a little bit more payroll, tax there than we normally would, for any normal fiscal year.
Yeah. But also, I mean, we know for sure that pay
As pay goes up, our
is
percentage of
up,
that pay goes
obviously,
up.
so the percentage of that is gone up too. I'm sure this is partly because everyone is having to pay because of the expense side going up, so. I mean, I'm always the guy who seems to
Sets the
change
pace.
this. But I mean, I think if we're looking at historicals plus what's going on in the economy right now, I mean, obviously the 5.1 is even more conservative, I think, than we, I mean, 5.5 is still nearly $1 million under actual. And so my initial thought would be 5.5, and we, obviously are going to be going through this the other times, and we start there.
I'm good with 5.5.
5.5.
So we got the receipt side. OTA, we got options as far as how we want to do this, but employees below pay scale, COLA, and health insurance. So
Okay.
if we've got 35 minutes, whichever one you think will be easier to try to narrow down, or
So
You
you're
wanna start on
saying,
the
since,
expense side.
okay, so since we, the last meeting, he was plugging those numbers in, you're saying that's what one of these documents is? The under,
I think he had a working
Scale.
copy of starting to plug in what y'all had talked about, but he did not provide that to me.
Okay,
What
so
you
that's
have-
not what
What you
this-
have here is what people are currently at, is my understanding of what, Brad emailed me this. So this is what people are currently at.
so this is based off of,
oh, man.
It's based off of this sheet that you have, that's our pay scale. And the reasons why the pay scale is what it is.
and all of this is subject to change. Choose to. The model that was put in place, which is in the admin code, which this one that she held up, it's got the minimum, mid, maximum. It's got our schedules, senior department head all the way down to staff one. All of that can change, but it's reflective currently. These two documents go hand in hand. And this is where he comes up with the over, under, and, gosh, the color coordinations on this. Y'all pick the colors that I can't even read the green.
The green is,
Is-
they're in line with their,
Minimum and mid. okay.
yep, they're in line with their section. The red is they're over, the yellow is under. And then there's some notes out to the side for anybody who
Yeah.
has a special circumstance.
Now, if this, and now, I put this on the table if we want to discuss this, or the COLA and health insurance. So it's 12:30 now, you're talking about 30 minutes.
All right, so this is I think,
You want to talk about COLA and health insurance? That's what that is.
Don't
You're
you
holding
think?
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what I had her do was put, and keep in mind that trying to put the material in front of you to where we can discuss as the budget. We talked about going back potentially to the receipts, because there's at least two, and maybe a couple other items that are going to be adjusted or can be adjusted based off of decisions we make. But as we move through this, we tried to break down each compartment to help us deal with each issue first, to get a better understanding of how each one is impacting the budget. So it don't matter to me, COLA or health insurance.
and they're obviously, by looking at this, these are, wait a minute. But these are separate though, too, right?
Are you talking about this COLA and health
Yes.
insurance?
So like the second calculation is COLA only. The first is health insurance only. They're
Right.
not added
Right.
onto each other.
Right. And this,
So if you,
right. This document goes with this one. This is where we are at right now with our salaries. So if you look at the bottom of the pink column, that's where the 11,138,000.
It's
Yeah,
current.
135,800.
Yeah.
That's current with next year's retirement rates. So that's if nobody's salaries change with next year's retirement rates. And if there is no room or factor for if health insurance goes up.
Which document
premiums.
did you have there, Eric? I'm sorry.
that one.
It's the one that has a
On your
pink
left.
column on the right. So at the
Go
page
to-
two.
It's 2 pages.
Yeah, go to page 2 on the back, and on the pink column, at the bottom of the pink column, it says 11,135,800. So then if you take your other page, this is what that number changes to if you do
Yeah.
all these things, but they're not consecutively, no.
Yes.
So if you wanted me to give you a figure on, for example, you said, give me a figure on 3% COLA and 6% insurance factor,
Yeah, I mean,
I could give that to you quickly, it's just not on this paper.
yeah, I got you. All right, but just so I'm correct on this, the bottom line 0% number, which is the bottom line coming from grand total FY 2023, does include the retirement increase that
That's right.
needed, that is required.
That's right.
Okay, so
2023.
includes
Retirement.
the required retirement increase. Okay.
And another, just.
No
as
matter
you're-
what, that's what we're doing.
Right, and as you're making notes, that also includes a 80 hours, year. So everybody working 80 hours. There are probably some budgets where it was already in there to have some overtime, which I can look at that if you want me to, but, it's not a bunch of departments working a ton of overtime. It's people working normal, full-time hours.
Right. And it's.
I'm trying to think if there's any
and
other
it's
caveat I need to say to that. And it's people who are employed right now.
Right now.
So well, at the time I did
At their
this-
pay scale.
At the time I did this,
Yes.
which was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we've had a few people leave and exchange out. But so I didn't carry over any open positions.
Nor did we change it based on any of the recommendations from
That's right.
department heads,
That's right.
nothing. This
That's
is
correct.
legitimately the number.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. All
Right, and if there was an open position the day I did that, I cut them out. So think about that too. A department head may come back and say, hey, I have an open position. And, because I did it on who was employed the day I created this.
Okay. Shouldn't be,
I wouldn't think that there would be
yeah, I mean,
something crazy, but.
okay. All right, so health insurance factor.
Yes, so we've,
What do you-
historically, they did 12% historically. We had a few years where the health insurance, our portion did not change at all. This year it did. I believe it was 3 or 4%. I can't recall for sure. but if I remember, my memory serves me well, it's 3 or 4%. There's no way to know how that will change with inflation. I mean, I guess we could ask Peel and Holland if they had a,
Crystal ball.
if they had a,
Formula or something?
yeah, formula, or if they had a wild guess they wanted to give us. I would think it would probably be a wild guess, but you never know. Maybe they have some insight we don't have. And it is the states who gets to decide. So if we stay with the state plan, which we always have historically.
I mean, I would think that, and if not, well, but he is pilling on. I mean, knowing Kelly and some of the sitting through several of his things, I can't imagine he doesn't at least have a really good guess. So it would be that'd be helpful to maybe from Kelly
Okay.
at Pillenholland / Keiko, I guess. But do you remember the figure that we used last year?
We did not budget for an increase this last year.
We did
There
not.
was one, so as the end of the year comes, I may have to move some money to cover some lines. I'll have to see after the last payroll how things
So-
fill out.
So we don't know. So that's one. So
What's Kelly's last name?
Harding.
Never emailed Kelly before, so let me email somebody I do know there and see if they can get an email to him.
I think it's right. Harding. But I don't know who else. I mean, surely it's somebody else with him. Okay, so back to what you just said. We don't, we didn't increase this last year, but may. Okay, so at the maximum, or not maximum, but at the highest that you have on here, it's a little short of, or right at 147. $147,000 more at a 12%.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, 146.9. Right?
Yeah, looks like correct math to me.
I mean, I don't know how inflation affects this number, in correlation or whatever, but I mean, if you're looking simply based on inflation, you're looking at least into that 8% corridor, which is about $50,000 less than that, but right at a $100,000 increase. Well, I think you would assume something here, but I would like to know Kelly's thoughts on that, because, man, I feel like he's, yeah, on top of that,
We can definitely send an email, reach out.
I just sent
Who
one of
get
them an
his
email
pen?
and asked if they could get it to who
Yeah, okay.
could give us a guess.
And then again, what we're gonna have to do is add these on top of each other.
Right. So whatever you
'Cause
wanted to
these
do for
numbers
health
are-
insurance and whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
So and if you take the maximum 12%,
yeah.
which we already, you just,
Yeah,
and then you find one in between that the court, we're all comfortable with,
mm-hmm,
you're gonna get your difference.
yeah. Yep.
So
Okay.
as we, just for today, we got about 15 minutes left, but if we were to, in discussion, just say 12%.
Just
No
to-
number,
on the unknown and using the max, certainly I cannot see it being over 12%.
right. And if we combine with COLA, if we want to use the same methodology, so to speak, just to kind of give a minimum, maximum known, and I'm talking about the difference.
Yeah. So you're at 146.9 on insurance if we use 12%.
Correct. And then if you go with 6.5
Yeah.
COLA,
That is 545.1. Is that right?
And I just chose half percent increments up to 6.5.
Yeah.
I can go higher. I can do quarter increments. I can give you figures on whatever you want.
would you say 542?
545.1. Isn't that right? Just off the top of my head there, that's what it looks like. 545, yeah.
So that's on the high end.
Yep, that's right.
So
So if you,
if you use that, let's just say 12% and 6.5, high end for both. And then
that's 692. Total. Would be the insurance plus COLA. But that's, again, so that I know we are clear, but this is not taking any of those changes based on our
Recommendations,
policy or recommendations.
right, people are.
It's not,
they're-
it is not using this.
No, it is using that, because that's where they are today.
Well, I'm saying moving anyone
Nope.
from one of these.
No,
It's-
they're in this as what they are today. I swear, we need to glue it on.
As of today, yes.
quick karate
As of
chop.
today, I know,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right. So, red, man, holy cow.
Sorry, it did come out kind of badly. Red is, they're over,
Over,
they're over their scale. Green is, they're in line with their scale. Yellow under.
okay. Okay.
And it looks like the copy here, I mean, you guys are looking at it. I know
So-
the jail is not placed at this time. I don't know if that's something that's gonna change. I think it was done that way.
You mean in the, our scale, under our
Right,
scale?
Right.
Yes. It's current. It's current, not,
I believe so, yes. This document came from Brad, but yes, my understanding is it is current to what they are.
yeah. I mean, okay, so that we can, so,
So for, just to kind of get a view, I think there's 13 who are under, if my math's correct.
6, 7,
16.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. All right. And the other two are relatively the same number. Over, under. Looks like, I mean, just based on looking at colors.
Yeah, 4 of those are seasonal road department, 4 of the people who are under are seasonal road department people, so they're not our actual
Oh, okay.
long-term employee.
Gotcha. Oh,
And if
okay.
they're, you'd say park, yeah.
Okay. I got you. So at least what that gives us is something to think about prior to the next meeting of, that's a figure we'd have to feel comfortable with on the highest end, essentially. That is a minimum increase. Or not a minimum, it's a maximum, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and, you know, obviously,
the-
the ideal situation would be that we've narrowed down a number that we're comfortable with.
Yeah,
Just to go through this process. Then we get into the expense side and we see the difference. Obviously, there's some decisions that have to be made because we haven't even got into the needs and wants.
mm-hmm.
From what we've heard from everybody. So, the best we can to identify, hey, here's where we're comfortable, and then we can move forward. Because we are, what, three and a half meetings
Yeah.
for budget work?
If we are gonna make our June 1 first reading date. I don't know how much I'd push past that, because DLG needs time to check it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're needing to do is pick one of these on both of these columns so that it can be put into our working document to be ready for us next time to start with the wants and needs,
Yeah, so.
with that being a,
Yeah, so if you, and this is just as an
Just to-
example.
yes.
If we take the 12% and the 6.5%, we came up with
692.
692. If we take minus the seasonal employees and bring them up to their minimum, I don't know how quick you can get a number on that.
Bring them up to the minimum, take
Minus-
everybody on here in yellow and bring them up to their minimum?
Minus the seasonal.
Okay.
Because that's a standard rate.
Oh. So add that
In
also.
a scenario.
Okay,
We got 16, but some of them are seasonal
okay.
or part-time,
But can you,
unless you guys want to.
but would you not have to at that point though? Or would it matter? You wouldn't do if you're gonna take somebody up to the minimum, you're not doing the COLA on top of that? Or once you take them to that minimum, the COLA is,
Once I take them to the minimum, I mean, I can do either way. The formula set up is I'll take them to the minimum and they'll get a COLA on top of that.
oh,
But we don't
okay.
have to do it that way. I can change the formula.
Well, there's no way to know. That's the thing. So if you're assuming this COLA, what you don't want, what I don't think you're assuming is that anyone's change from minimum to where we would be taking them would be less than the COLA that everybody else is getting. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Well, I mean,
But we're not going to know that.
they're under in the current year when there's no COLA, so if it had been fixed in this current year, they would be in with everybody else getting a COLA, whatever COLA is decided on. So they're
I don't
under-
think you and I just
Are on
made
the same
sense with
page.
each other. Because okay. Okay. Yeah, all right. So what you're saying is your assumption would take someone to their minimum and then add. So there would be no way that you could get less than COLA. Okay.
But what we can achieve today is a number, not a fixed number. So we're using the top end, obviously. We haven't got to the receipts total, or expenses as a total, but it would give you an idea where we're at
Okay.
with COLA and health topped out and everyone at their minimum.
Yeah.
So over the next, next week? No, the week after. When we come back, you'll have
We'd
the
have that.
time to review the numbers.
Yep.
Because, roughly, well, it's going to be another increase.
Yeah.
And I want you to see that increase with these numbers.
Yeah.
So when we come back, we don't have to spend 2 hours trying to come up with what you can walk out of here today with knowing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think then my opinion would be if we want to look at the, not worst case scenario, because
Sure.
that's a negative connotation, but the highest of the two possibilities that we have on here, then I think we just need to go ahead and do the 12 and the 6.5. But if we want to be more in line with what maybe we're is
Where we're,
reasonable, maybe, or
Really
something
at,
like that, then I think we would do somewhere closer to the 8,
on the health.
6 to 8 on the health, and the 3 to 4 on the COLA. No, it's a range,
Okay.
but
Well, no, that's why I broke it out this way so that you guys can see it. So why don't we do this? What'd you say on the COLA, roughly?
say on the, let's do 3.5.
3.5,
Let's pick
so,
3.5 on that. It's in between 3 and 4.
Three to 4.5, just as a range. Because
Yeah. Right.
what we can do is I can have Erica put together the numbers to send you,
Yeah.
just how she's broken this down.
Yeah.
So if we go from 3 to 4.5, break that down, and again, this is just a
Yeah.
reference point. Then this, we know, is consistent because it's identifying those under minus the seasonal for right now and give you a minimum total.
Okay.
So combined, how that plays out, is that making sense, Erica? I know she's doing something else, but.
Y'all wanted me to put people in at the minimum? Okay, let me do that really quick, and then I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
Without those 4 seasonal or whatever, or
So then that way, when we come back, you can have a better idea where we need to start to maximize our time.
Yep. Never mind. Sometimes something actually, believe it or not, comes to my head and I don't say it. It's kind of rare. I'm probably wear Denise out.
Okay, so, I didn't change the 4 seasonal road department.
Okay.
The person in 911 who is under it has left. And I skimmed the others, and I believe, not knowing for sure what category they're in, I believe they're all okay, but,
Parks,
on the, on 911. And then the park, yeah, animal control is next. I put them at the lowest, like you said. However, the last several of them that are under, they are part-time, so they're actually not even listed, they're listed as part-time help on there.
Okay, so kind of like seasonal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, I changed Ginger, I changed Morgan at the park, and then the other positions at the park are seasonal, and there's one on here open, I'm assuming it's filled, and I would hope that it was hired in within its range and not under, when it was
Yeah.
filled this year.
What'd that do?
does it matter? Did you take in consideration, you may have the staff 4 under animal? We just replaced that today.
Yes, but I believe that
Still
person
under.
will, it was still, it was still under, because we didn't, I think you didn't read off a salary change when you read it. Okay, so making those changes, just that part. That changes, on your pink column of base number, changes it from 11,135,000 to 11,150,200. 11,150,200.
So then we go back to,
So of course, now your options here are a little off, but it shouldn't
Yeah,
be
but
crazy, it shouldn't be crazy.
It's not gonna be a ton, no.
No.
I mean, that's actually $15,000. Right?
What was that?
It's actually just a $15,000 increase.
Yeah, is that what the difference was?
Not even.
Yeah.
14,400.
Okay,
So
what
will
you guys were
you,
telling
so
me when I
you'll
was not
use,
listening.
you will
What did you
use
say?
that when you do the change.
yeah, so.
So jump off from there when I do the other parts, is that what you're
Don't you
saying?
think?
So the range that we were saying, 3% to 4.5% on COLA, 5 to 8% on health. Apply it to that 11,150,000, is that right?
Maybe 6 to 8
On
on the insurance so that you don't have.
the insurance?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
That way you got, I mean, you've still got 3 different.
Did you say 6 to 8?
Yeah.
Is that not what I said? What did I say?
That way it's 3 different, you know?
Numbers.
Yeah,
6 to 8, and what was on the COLA?
3 to 4.5. Well, you know what? That's 4, isn't it? Whatever.
I know Justin has to go. Is this something that you're wanting right now, or you're wanting me
No.
to get that to you, or?
No, I
the
think
next budget
that's
meeting?
the
No,
document we
what
need
have now is
prior to
that you can put together to
send.
send to you guys, so that
Yep.
way you can chew on it
Yep.
till our next meeting.
Yes.
Then we'll have the expense side, and hopefully our next meeting, it'll be an all-day,
Yep.
I expect. Will have to be, so,
Yep.
clear as mud.
Clear.
All right. Gentlemen, enjoyed it.